to call this general committee meeting to order. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated, including the following changes? There's a withdrawal of the delegation on Kitimat, and also there is an issue with item number 4. Mr. Clerk, could you speak to that?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Some new information arose today, and that is not included in the report, so we are asking Council to withdraw or remove item R4 from the agenda. It's the approval of the capital projects with the wide area mower. So we're asking Council to remove the item from the agenda, as you don't have the full picture in front of you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So may I have a motion to move the agenda minus the delegation and minus item number 4? Thank you, Councillor Thompson and Mr. Mayor. All those in favor? Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have no community presentations this night. We have no delegations, no consent agenda. Advisory committee meeting minutes, we do have that from the FAC. That's, I believe, A1. Are there any questions on that? Seeing none, turn the page. May I have a motion to approve A1? Thank you, Councillor Gallo and Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Great. So we go to consideration of items. Oops, that's carried. Consideration of items requiring separate discussion. I see we have a lot of people in the council chamber to hear the issue on Kitimat. So it's the first one. Mr. Hoyes, wherever you are. It's the first one. Okay, item number 1. Motion to put this on the table. Is that right? On the floor, Councillor. Mr. Mayor.
Madam Chair, I was just going to say, maybe if we want, we can just move to receive it at this point, because I'm not comfortable in moving it, and I don't know if anyone else is moving the recommendation. So maybe we can just move to receive it.
Okay, we'll start off with a motion to receive that can be changed during the discussion. Who would like to start? Councillor Humphreys, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we've received a lot of communication from residents in the area, and the issue is more about safety of the children's being dropped off, picked up for school hours. So I spent the morning there today and a few other times earlier, and it's a very unusual in terms of the build of sidewalks. And you know, from a policy perspective, we're not building the road again. We just want to put the sidewalks in. It was a directive from council. So that was from last term, and you know, there's $100,000. So you'll see some pictures as you go here. The residents were really good today. Put some pictures together on what you see. And these are just cars parked while parents are dropping off their kids, and then they disappear once they're gone. Right? Yeah.
Excuse me. Where are these cars? On what street are these cars parked?
They're on Kitimat.
Thank you.
This is Kitimat. So it's just kind of what you see. They're just people just trying to drop their kids off as safely as possible, go to the school, and come back to their car. So the issue, even if there's a sidewalk there, it's not going to solve the real concern. A sidewalk is, to me, at this point in time, although we did get a good solid staff report on why we do it and follows up policies, it's still not going to address the safety concerns. This is still going to happen, and it's a very unique shaped road. So at the very end, if you go to the very end, and I wondered if we could ask staff to take a look at this as an alternative. A few of the residents put together this solution. There's some concerns about losing parking spots, of course, and you've heard all the concerns from the residents. If we do put a sidewalk there, there's many semi-detached homes and shared driveways, so that would become a bit of an issue. But if you look here, what I saw this morning was unbelievable, and I believe the crossing guard is here. I was shocked. Her job is really hard because all these parents are dropping off their students on Tecumseh. In front of the school was absolutely no stopping, no parking. And they have 4 volunteers there asking parents to stop and rush the kids out and move the cars along so that the kids are safe. And then I saw school buses being almost hit by cars that are being parked in no parking areas and they can't get around because, frantically trying to get their kids to school safely. It was ongoing. It was shocking. I couldn't believe it. And then there's like sidewalk, little corners on Tecumseh and Kitimat, little stands there that go nowhere. I don't get it. Anyway, so really what I would love staff to consider and think of how we can do it is, and we've got this, I looked at Go Transit just put in a set of stairs and a parking area on some land that we, I think, sold to them that allowed lots of additional parking. And there was some stairs going up and across and into the Go Transit lot. It's amazing. I couldn't believe when that was up. They were a great idea. So similar idea. I know it's a steep hill, but I'd love staff if they could take a look at engineering a pathway from the ACC back towards the school, and not even in that circled area, maybe a little path so it doesn't interrupt any of the car area or any of the buses going in the back of the school, so the kids can be safely dropped off by their parents and walk back out. Park at the ACC. I actually saw some parents doing that today and walking up the hill. So that parking lot is empty at 8 o'clock in the morning to 9, and it's empty at 2:30 to 3:30. And I really believe that would eliminate all the parking concerns, and all those things are going up in front of the school, especially if we prohibit parking at all, no parking, and we give communication to parents that, go to the ACC, park, lots and lots and lots of parking there, walk your child up, go back to your car, and go home safely. Honestly, that is the only way we could stop this stuff that happens in front of that school. It's super unsafe. And instead of investing in a sidewalk there, and I know there's reasoning behind it, I just don't think that is the right thing to do right now. I think the parents have come here time and time again about safety issues. The sidewalk is not going to create, I think there's 4 children that go to school from Kitimat to that school. And I saw them actually safely walking along the side of the road. It's very quiet. There wasn't one car in an hour and a half that actually went around that street when I was there. They walked along. The crossing guard saw them, went over and escorted them both ways across Kitimat and over to Tecumseh to the school safely. But I really believe this will help a lot of the concerns that the parents are talking about. This came from residents. We all got a copy of it. But I just thought, would really like staff to take a peek at this before we approve, sidewalks. Again, there's a budget for $100,000. If we can take that amount of money, take a look at what it would take to do that over here safely. It's a great use of an empty parking lot. It's not going to cost the parents any more time. In fact, it's a lot safer, straight up, straight out. That's my suggestion. I wondered if council would consider perhaps asking staff to take another quick look at this, and if staff would like to comment, that's fine as well.
Could I just ask you, is this something that the school would also have to approve? Would they have to have staff out there?
Well, they've, through you, Madam Chair, they have tons of staff out there. They had
In the front.
They have four people in the front of the school escorting kids out of their cars in a no parking area, no stopping, to get them safely and to make sure nobody hits the kids. They have one stopping cars going into the back so that the school buses go in, and they've got a crossing guard. So they've got 6 or 7 people out front right now, just for the safety of the children. So they've got staff all over the place. So whether they're at the front of the school or the back, I don't think they need them in the back because there's nothing for them to worry about. It's just having the children go to school and parents going back. So to me, just looking at this makes logical sense. It's a good investment, and it takes away seriously the very serious safety concerns. I'm shocked that the school hasn't said, the crosswalk helped, the stop sign helped, but the safety issues still linger. Anyway, I
Thank
hope
you.
that
No, I would first of all like to thank you for all the work that you've done on this.
it was the residents. They did all the work.
And the residents. And I'd also like to thank Ms. Mahale because we do have a sidewalk policy,
Yeah, we do.
and the report is in keeping with that. But at the same time, this looks like a rather strange area and may need a different solution than a sidewalk. Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak to this? So do we want to have a motion to refer this back to staff, but more than that, for staff to work with the residents, and also is there a parent organization in the school? So maybe to try and approach this from a slightly different angle, to see if we could, I mean, at the end of the day, it is safety, and I know Mr. Hoyes has been here, I don't even know how many times, trying to figure this out, and we put in a crossing guard, but it doesn't seem to have alleviated the problem. Does anybody want to speak to it or make a motion to refer? Councillor Humphreys, is that okay? Is this in order? Okay.
If I could ask that we refer this back to staff for another look at a possible alternative solution due to the safety concerns in the area. And if they need to work with the school or parent-teacher, I can help. I know Councillor Gilliland has been engaged as well. If they would like us to work to obtain feedback from the residents that I worked with even today, I can do that as well. And then, at the end of the day, staff will be able to make a good recommendation whether this is the right idea or not.
Before I ask for a seconder, Councillor Thompson, do you want to speak? Well, then go ahead.
Thank you. I guess I'd like to get some further clarification around the sidewalk. Because when I read the report, there is a piece in there with respect to the sidewalk and accessibility. We went to a committee. The accessibility committee for the town strongly recommended it. There's a paragraph on page 4 that talks about the AOD and meeting the standards, and that a sidewalk is necessary. And so I guess my little concern is that I fine with referring it back to staff and having some further conversation around the issue of school and access and safety, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that within this report there is talk about accessibility and how that is going to be dealt with going forward. So I don't know. I believe Councillor Gilliland's on the accessibility committee. I don't know if she intended to speak about that or not and share some of the conversation that happened at that committee, but for those that are following on, page 4, the last paragraph speaks highly to the need to maintain those standards, and that's part of the AODA. And so I just want to make sure that we're not losing sight of that aspect of it. Granted, Councillor Humphreys has come up with some interesting ideas to address some of the other concerns, but I don't want to lose sight of the accessibility issue.
Thank you very much. It's a good point. Pardon? Councillor Kim, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. I mean, certainly AODA concerns are valid and real. I'm not sure whether AODA is necessarily applicable here. I think the AODA was concerned because of residents, especially local residents that are traveling to and from school. In this case, it's not about the local residents. I mean, most of the students are commuter students, and those who are in the local area, in the catchment, they certainly don't use Kitimat because, as Mr. Hoyes adequately presented on the map, that this is not a main road, and in fact, it's probably faster to go using the other ancillary road than Kitimat. When you look at the road schedule, we update our roads, was it every 15, 20 years or so, and on the schedule, the maintenance on this street is on 2032. It's still, albeit it's 12 years away, to have to construct a sidewalk where few people will use it, or not as much as sidewalks in other neighborhoods perhaps. where there's more heavy traffic, foot traffic. It would make sense if we're going to do it, we're going to do it in 2032. And given that, from my understanding from the residents, there's not that many, if at all, students from Aurora Heights Public School that live on Kitimat. So I think, I was going to say Agent Humphreys, but Councillor Humphreys did a great job of investigating, and there's an alternative solution. And I don't think a sidewalk is a solution. And certainly, just for the sake of, meeting the policies, I think there's, it's great to follow the ad hoc rules, but it's also prudent to follow practicality, and spending $100,000 on a sidewalk that's not going to be used on many occasions. It doesn't seem like a prudent course of action to me. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kim. You pretty much addressed the accessibility portion for me in response to Councillor Thompson. We did meet with the Accessibility Committee. We did talk about it. It was really brief. It was our first meeting. A lot of new sitting members. The discussion was more or less if they were satisfied with the design. There wasn't really more or less a strong, urgent need, in a sense, that they felt they were being asked of. It was more or less, are they happy with the design and moving forward and meeting the AODA accessibility? But I'm more than happy to go back to the committee and ask them more recommendations on what they would feel if we were not to do that, and to provide alternate solutions. I do feel that, echoing what Mr. Hoyes and Ms. Humphreys is saying, that it may not solve the problem what we're trying to achieve here, which is the safety of children exiting cars and going to school. I think they're still going to drive their parents to school, and they're still going to get out of the cars and cause traffic mayhem. I don't know if 100% is the solution, so I'm not comfortable moving forward with that. So I'd like to see some alternative solutions, whether it's a pathway at the back, or maybe working with the school and possibly doing like a bus lieway at the front as well. So at least, or a kiss and ride, similar to what's the school? Regency Acres has. Maybe there's a little bit of something there we can explore. But I would be in support of receiving this report and moving forward for staff.
Thank you, Mayor Maracas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just start off. I'm not in favor of looking at doing the sidewalk at this time. I mean, when the street was reconstructed, it states here in 2001 that at the time our town did not have a sidewalk installation policy in place. We do have that in place now. And so I suggest that we go with alternative in our report, which is to wait until that reconstruction comes, and then we can visit the talk of the sidewalk at that time. There's no need for the sidewalk at this time. I do share some of the concerns as far as the driveways, eliminating space for the residents to utilize their driveways. I mean, we have issues, especially during winter, where we have no parking on the roads from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. and we see it all around town. Residents have problems parking their vehicles, finding a place to park them. And here we are, we're gonna put a sidewalk that in essence the residents don't really need. It's not part of our policy. We're doing it ahead of time, and we're gonna be taking spots away from their driveways, and now they're gonna have to park on the road, and then they're gonna get a ticket during the wintertime. So, I mean, it's just all wrong. And so I won't be in favor of it. I would like to just go with that alternate, as I said, within our report, and we can deal with it when the road reconstruction comes up, and we can deal with it through our sidewalk installation policy at that time.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. I think, at least for me, from what I've read and what I've heard tonight, there are two issues that are somewhat linked. And I really appreciate the issue with the school and the alternative and the planning to try to get parents off the road and perhaps use the community center. As far as the sidewalks, I'm somewhat hesitant because I don't know whether all the residents don't want a sidewalk. I just don't know. I've heard, I've seen some emails, but I haven't seen any petitions, and maybe I missed it. But I'd like to see, you know, what the numbers are in terms of how many are for and against, and surely if the vast majority are not in for it, there doesn't seem to be a rationale to do it. But I would be in favor of sending this back to staff to explore alternative routes to get the kids into the school. I think we'd have to have some conversations with the school board and the particular school and see how the routing of that might not be good to be going into the parking lot, perhaps around the parking lot into the, you know, I'm sure people smarter than me can figure that out, but I think it's a good idea to send it back and do some research on that.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Humphreys?
Yeah, just to Madam Chair, yeah, absolutely. Option 2 is the right thing to do tonight, for sure. But I do think there's a safety concern there that shocked me today. So if, I don't know if I need a separate motion to do that later, or we can do it from here. To have to go back to staff and take a look at that, because there is...
We'll let everybody speak.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, and I'm fine with the alternative recommendation to do it in time with the reconstruction of the road. You know, again, my only concern was the way the report was written. You know, it stated that the accessibility committee actually was strongly encouraged the construction, and so that's a little bit different than the conversation that the chair just shared with us. And so I was really just taking their comments. Further to that, we have in our report that says that the town has a duty to comply with the built environment standards, which require municipalities to remove barriers and to construct sidewalks and pathways under the design of public spaces technical requirements. And so I just want to make sure that we're not offside with our compliance and offside with the committee, which, according to the report, strongly encouraged the construction of these sidewalks. And so happy to refer it back, happy to perhaps run it through the accessibility committee again, have further conversation. But I do agree that the more appropriate time to do that would be when we construct the road. And that was the original plan. And in fact, it was this council, well, not this council, last term council, that actually altered the recommendation and unanimously approved the fast tracking of the sidewalk in 2016, based upon residents who came to the podium and advocated for it. And so now, you know, a couple years fast forward, and we're doing a 180 on it, which is fine.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear that we did receive a petition, just to make it clear, through email, and I believe there was 2 residents on the entire street that were not in favor. I can't remember the total number, but I'm just going to throw, like, there's, say, 48. So out of 48, there was like 46 that were for, 2 that were against. I'm not 100% on those numbers, but just kind of throwing that out there. As far as, and just response to Mr. Thompson, I wasn't the chair at the committee meeting, just to be clear, just to make that clear. But yes, I mean, obviously we want to take their thoughts and considerations and whatnot. Absolutely. Thanks. That's all.
Thank you. The intent of the sidewalk policy, the intent of the resident, a plural, coming to the podium over the years about this, the intent of council putting in the sidewalk was to improve safety. If the people who are most familiar with the area don't feel that the sidewalk is going to promote safety, then, I mean, I don't know how we can put a sidewalk in. So Mayor Marax, have you spoken more than once? No, then you get to speak again.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just move the motion.
Actually, I just wanted to also, it is actually in the report in regards to the petition. 38 households out of the total of 41 opposed it. So that just, Councillor Gilliland, just to kind of add on to what you were saying. But at this point, I think I'd like to put forward alternative to the recommendation. So number one, that council does not authorize the construction of the sidewalk on Kitimat Crescent at this time, and that the sidewalk will be built in accordance with the town sidewalk policy when the road is being reconstructed. And I know, Councillor Humphries, you might want to add something to that, but I think maybe we can just, if we can start with that, and then if you want to add, make an amendment and add to that, but I think that's.
I'm going to ask Mr. Clerk to explain this. Just got a little complicated.
Certainly. Through you, Madam Chair, Mayor Marcus, I believe that what the motion in effect does right now is exactly what you've said. Staff would, receiving the port is no direction, no action, so staff would not build the sidewalk. And then as the alternative recommendation says, once the road, it does come back for reconstruction, the sidewalk would come back to be dealt with at that time too. So I don't think the amendment is necessary.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Clerk. I appreciate that. And if that's the case, I was just concerned that if we're just receiving it, that it might go down a different direction. But if you're saying that just by receiving it, we would end up falling into our regular policy and we would look at when we reconstruct the road, then I'm fine with that.
And through you, Madam Chair, and just to be clear, if a motion to refer back to staff for other solutions was passed by council this evening or committee this evening, council next week, a report would be returned well before that road reconstruction with other options per se.
Thank
you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councillor Humphries, would you like to make a motion to refer this back to staff and be specific what you're looking for?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As long as, if that's all right, I would like to add to this is just to receive, but then to take a look at the safety issues around the school. Is that a whole different motion under
You can
new
just
business,
refer
or
it
can
back
I?
to staff to take a look at
Yeah,
other
okay.
alternatives for safety.
Okay. So refer back to staff, not to move forward with the street sidewalk construction, but to take a look at alternative methods for safety. It's almost like a different issue. I almost wonder if I should put this under new business, leave this alone, and put the safety under a new business.
I think it can be done, but Mr. Clerk is going to comment.
Through you, Madam Chair, another option might be that an amendment be made that staff report back on alternative safety concerns.
School drop-off,
Yeah, that's
address school drop-off and pickup?
yeah,
Okay,
or to address safety concerns in the area.
okay, perfect, but no sidewalk. I
So
want to make
when-
sure that staff doesn't go down that route.
No, the sidewalk issue wouldn't be.
It's over.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So you're making the issue to refer, the
refer back to
motion
s-
to refer back to staff to
To staff
find
to-
alternative,
A
Staff report
back on
alternative.
alternative methods of a safe drop-off and pickup, considering some information that the residents provided as an alternative.
Sounds good to me. Is there a seconder for that?
Can you second it?
Councillor Gilliland is seconding that. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Pardon? Can we get it on the screen? Councillor Humphries, is that acceptable to you? Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. Is that acceptable to you as the seconder? Thank you. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Thank you. Thank you to all the residents for coming out this evening. No? Main motion as amended. One more vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Thank you. Thank you to the residents who've come out this evening. The next item is number 2, which is winter maintenance report. Number 2? Yes, thank you. And we have a presentation from Mr. Downey and Mr. Tree. Thank you for an excellent report. And a video. And the chamber clears.
Okay. Not that I need a microphone, but I think it helps. Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you for providing this opportunity to talk about winter maintenance. This is our second report on winter maintenance. Our first report, if you recall, dealt with some of the new ministry standards that have been brought down from the province and our reaction to those, as well as windrows. This report this evening will deal with our snowplow routes and our sidewalk plow routes and recommendations from staff on how to move forward with those. Winter maintenance is a complicated issue, and it takes a team to make this happen. Two very important members of that team are behind me. Jim Tree, who's our acting manager of roads, and Dan Nakarado, who's our supervisor of roads. And they're here this evening to hear the discussion. And also, I wish to give them all the credit in the world for making things happen this winter. We have come a long way in a couple of years as far as the winter maintenance goes, and we have some steps to take yet, and we hope that this report is going to assist us in moving that forward. We felt that it's important that council get some indication of what it takes in order for us to make this happen. And quite often we are invisible. You see the results of our work, but you don't see us at work. And so we thought it would be important to give you a little bit of a glimpse, 2-minute glimpse, of what it's like to deal with winter maintenance. So, or can you start it? I want to, but it's going to keep playing if you don't stop it. Thank you. I want to thank Dan Nacarado for all his hard work on that. I think it's important that you get a feel for some of the stuff that has to take place, and a lot of things that you might not realize in order to make this happen. This has been a very active winter. We've actually had more events this year than the last 2 years. We had 64 events this year, 57 last year and 51 the year before that. And now that the snow is hopefully gone, but maybe not, it's pothole season. And just so you know, I thought I'd give you a little update on potholes. Right now, we've recorded 429 potholes in town.
Whoa.
And we fixed 319, have 110 more to go. And so keep those emails coming in. If you happen to see a pothole, send it our way, and we'll do our best to get out there and have it filled. We put 11 tons of asphalt out already in the potholes.
Lord.
So we're getting in some of the older infrastructure, so you get in Walton and Golf Links and some of those streets. We know that some old infrastructure, and so special attention needs to be paid to some of these older areas. Now to the report. The report deals with two things. First of all, our roads and our sidewalks and our maintenance operations. But I thought I could just do a quick presentation to walk you through the report, some of the highlights within the report to assist council. And then we certainly have myself as well as staff here to answer any questions you may have on the report. So with that, we presently have a fairly large inventory, 220 road allowance kilometers. I call it road allowance kilometers because we can refer to it as lane kilometers, but sometimes you have 2-lane roads and sometimes you have 4-lane roads. So we have 220 kilometers of road. We have 11 plow routes. 7 of those are maintained by the town, and 4 of those routes are contracted services. We do not believe that it will be necessary to engage a 5th contract during the life of this current contract. We have the ability to have a 5th plow route if we choose. However, we don't believe that will be necessary. We supplement the road's winter maintenance operations with an element of external contract service, providing the greatest level of flexibility. There was a discussion within the report with regards to whether this should be a full municipal operation, a full contract operation, or a mixture of the two. We believe that we are best served in our present model. The external contract gives us great flexibility. There's no perfect scenario. Each municipality, we're part of the N6, and we're certainly in contact with them on a regular basis. And each has their own particular way of dealing with winter maintenance. But we feel that this is a good scenario for Aurora. Our present contractor provides us in an uninterrupted 24-hour service, 7 days a week, and they are not subject to work stoppages, illness, disruptions, absenteeism, those things. However, the contract staff also tends to be less engaged in the operation and often lack the sense of pride and ownership that we often find in our municipal employees. Conversely, as I said, municipal staff tend to be a highly trained, experienced group to have a stake in the operation. As they say, our motto now in operations is making a difference. And our staff have certainly embraced that, and we're out making a difference every single day. And we certainly do that, demonstrating a high level of professionalism, pride, and ownership as we go through our workday. There will be an additional 13 road allowance kilometers of roads and 28 kilometers of sidewalks, which we'll assume within the next 6 to 8 years. And that will require additional resources. However, at this time, we are not asking for those additional resources. We feel that those will be, as I say, coming within the next 6 to 8 years, and we will be increasing the number of routes in response to the additional roads. Some of the key considerations in determining whether or not to contract out some of the winter road maintenance services, 3 of them are the quality control of the service, the current operating structure, and the costs. Council's been very good to us and continues to be good to us with regards to ensuring that we have the support to grow and keep pace with our municipal service levels. Council has established service levels, and the staff have done their very best to maintain those service levels, and Council has given us the resources in which to do that. The factors determining the costs, there's a number of factors that we looked at when comparing ourselves to the contractor, and it's in the report. It's on page 5 of 16. And those are the contractor's actual invoices, the town's actual staff time, including overtime, standby, and fringe benefits, the town's actual equipment capital costs, the town's actual and estimated materials for supply, fuel, insurance, those types of things, the town's estimated mechanics times, and the actual residual value of the snowplow and the standard trucks recently sold at public auction. The overall operating costs to provide town-owned operated are marginally less than those of the contractor, but as I say, important word there is marginally. They are fairly comparable, and we believe that maintaining a contracted workforce is a benefit to the municipality. It should also be noted that contractors' costs are somewhat market-based, and so they can fluctuate up and down upon the expiry of our 7-year contract. Staff considerations, and we discussed this a little bit last night in the operating budget. We are recommending further conversion of seasonal contract workers to full-time flex operators. That offers us a greater, offers us a greater level of experience, reliability, and efficiency in the roads and the parks divisions. We are recommending, and we have a committee approval at this point, however not council approval, we're still awaiting that, to turn 4 seasonal staff into 2 flex persons this year, another one next year, and another one the following year. Road patrol and inspections. The 2019 operating budget proposes 1 full-time roads operator to a crew leader, which provides a greater level of support to the frontline workers and accountability in the winter's road maintenance operations. There is a need for 1 additional crew leader to position to assist in supplementing both the winter and the summer roads. As I mentioned earlier in our first report on winter maintenance, the new maintenance standards require that we be out and patrolling on an ongoing basis. That is our due diligence for the corporation, and the conversion from an operator to a lead hand permits us to do that. It also gives a lead hand an opportunity who've been very efficient and effective in the corporation, and certainly a greater leverage in using our unionized employees at a very minimal investment to the corporation. It's also beneficial in our efforts to provide succession planning and personal growth for our unionized staff. Our sidewalk operation. Delivery of the majority of the winter sidewalk operation is by contracted service, and we feel that this is the most cost-effective and efficient method in delivering this. We have a number of models throughout the year with regards to sidewalk snow plowing. It had at one point been all in-house, then it had been a little bit of in-house and contract. Presently, all contract. I'll move along. You're going to shut me down? Okay. Apologize. The contract winter maintenance supervision affords the most flexibility in meeting the challenges that are inherent in this work, and sidewalks are a very time-consuming part of our job. Presently, we are able to clear the sidewalks within about a 24-hour period, which is well within the town standards as well as the provincial standards. However, we do believe that there need to be some considerations in making some changes to the contract, and I'll talk about those a little later on. Growth-related sidewalk inventory assumes requires addition of one additional route in 2019 and 2020, and that is presently outlined in your or identified within your 2019 operating budget. Town-owned equipment and staff will continue to supplement the winter sidewalk operation and other important sidewalk maintenance functions. Even though we have contracted sidewalk operators, we still do some sidewalk clearing, particularly after a storm. There may be a wind may come up the very next day, blow in several sidewalks, or we might have some melt and have some icy conditions. And it's much more cost effective for us to go out with our own equipment and do that work instead of calling the contractor in. Looking to the future with regards to it, I think the terms and conditions of current winter contracts should be reviewed and revised prior to the renewal of the future or prior to the renewal or the tender of the future contract. We believe that the equipment needs to be looked at presently. We don't believe the equipment they have we've specified within the contract is heavy duty enough. Or strong enough in order to move some of those larger snow events. And we don't believe that they are equipped properly in order to minimize damage to adjacent properties. We presently have blade plows on all our sidewalk snow plows, and we'd like to get into V plows, which give us greater control. The equipment, you're over the plow much more than you are with a blade plow, so you have better control. You know you can see what you're doing, and we're hoping that will then reduce the amount of damage done. We have to have better response to our residents as well with regards to sod damage and being able to deal with that. We also think there should be things like penalty clauses within the contract, so if they aren't performing, we have some remedy or some method of certainly giving them some incentive to do better.
Mr. Downey, I'm going to tell you that you
I was just going to quit, by the way. And with that, I'm done my presentation and open for questions.
Well done. Well done. Could I have a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you. Thank you, through Madam Chair. Great presentation. Thank you, Mr. Downey. I enjoyed it. I loved the movie. Councillor Kim and I were almost in tears. It was it got us emotional. We don't know why, but it did. Anyway, it was good. Thank you for that. I just want to thank you to you and your staff. It's done some great, incredible work. I mean, from my perspective, I don't know if my peers feel the same way, but winter maintenance has really greatly improved with the leadership of Mr. Tree and Mr. Naraski. Sorry. Nadaracco. I'm Italian. I should know. Nadaracco. I understand. Sorry. Thank you to both your team leads and your staff, because you guys have done a great job. Personally, the complaints have been really low. Potholes has been one, but none to do with any bad work done at all. So it's been great. Like, it's really refreshing, to be honest with you, and thank you. I mean, from a winter maintenance perspective, so thank you very much. Thank you for the pothole recovery. I think there was one complaint one day, you gotta be careful, and within 2 hours it was done. They didn't even know what to say. So thank you very much, you guys. It's great. You make the town look really well. I love your combination of some contract, that flexibility that you need. I get it, kind of helps out. So would you say it was, to you, Madam Chair, a 60-40 contract? 40 contract?
With regards to roads,
contract,
we have
yeah.
11 routes, and 7 are town routes and 4 are contract routes.
Okay.
With regards to sidewalk, it's all contract.
All contract. Well, the sidewalks have done another great job. I mean, that I have heard. I don't know if, again, my peers have heard any complaints, but I haven't. And that was the number one issue, a year or 2 years ago. So really great. I love the idea of the V equipment. Hopefully you'll be able to get that, and the contractors will have a little more control over what's happening. I think that's all. Oh, just from my perspective, again, great job to you and your team for winter maintenance project. I love going forward in the same direction. I think that's the right way to go because it's working. Do you, from your team perspective, are you pleased with the cars off the road 2 to 6 a.m., that constant? Is that something that you and your team feel has been successful? Or we had a little bit of a change a year and a bit ago and went back to this. What are your thoughts from yourself and your team?
With regards to, actually winter maintenance, roads is only part of it. We have a meeting, and generally it happens in July, and bylaws involved, communications involved, chief administrative officer involved, to figure out what we need to do and how we can do things better. If I had my way, which I don't often, I'd have no cars on the road at any time. So that would be our preferred route, and we work towards that as much as we possibly can, with the understanding that probably won't get a full uptake of that. One of the things that I think that we did better this year, and we need to do better even next year, is communication. As you know, we had our signs out this year. We want every resident to know that these are being imposed, and I think that we need to get that message out. And some, certainly in the discussions that we've had with bylaw, some people don't get the message, but don't care and continue to pay the tickets, and we move on. But it does cause us a bit of an issue, and particularly on some streets. And certainly we're working with the planning department on perhaps coming in and eliminating some on-street parking during the winter. In Downey Circle's a bad one. Center Street's a bad one. If there's a car in the street, we can't get a plow down. And so people then call us up and want to know why their street isn't taken care of. So cars continue to be an issue, but I think that we're improving. I would like to get the message out to as many people out there as possible that we appreciate you taking your cars off the road, because they're actually out there trying to help you, and so help us help you.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for that. And through you, Madam Chair, thank you again. I know there's lots of long, hard working hours to keep our roads safe and clear. So thank you again to you and your team. I'm very proud of you guys. Thanks.
Are there any other comments? Councillor Gallo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Have we the cost of contracting, as you mentioned in the report and in the delegation, that it's marginally, the town's operated equipment are marginally less than those of the contractor. I'm wondering whether or not we have actually either gone out to tender or done some type of work to establish, if we really are going to compare, what the actual costs are if we were to contract this service out. Not unlike Richmond Hill, I believe they do it all. They may not, and maybe reaching out to them to see whether or not we can get some comparable numbers in terms of what it would cost us to contract out, if we really want to do a comparison, because I don't see any of that information in the report. It states in terms of calculating our cost, the process of determining the corporation's cost to own and operate the town's fleet is rather complex in terms of obtaining the precise and proper allocation of the costs. This requires drilling down into all of the detailed financial information, including staff allocation and associated capital or operational fleet-related overhead and other expenses. I think if we're going to do a proper comparison, in my view at least, we need to know what it costs us to provide the service, and we also need to know what it would cost if we were to contract it out, either by a tender or by communicating with other municipalities that currently do it, because I don't have any of that information. And maybe, Mr. Downing, through you, Madam Chair, maybe you have that in terms of what it would cost us to do winter maintenance through a contracted service.
Mr. Downey.
Through you, Madam Chair, the town has never gone out to contract exclusively on roads, so no, we don't have that information. We based our costs on the contracted routes that we do, and we can extrapolate those same numbers to the other 7 routes. There are some municipalities that do exclusive contracts. However, the majority within the N6 have a combination of contractors and municipal, as we do.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting we go that route. All I'm suggesting is that if we're going to do a comparison, I would want to see the two, and I suspect there will be variables that we would have a significant advantage of, and some of them are listed in the report in terms of probably the quality of staffing. That I would completely agree that contracted services, sometimes you don't get the same quality as someone that you're hiring. But I don't have those comparisons, so there's no way I could judge, and I don't know whether there's an economy of scale for a contractor if they're doing the entire routes, all 11, as opposed to just 7, and whether extrapolating out equals to the same thing. So in my view, in order to, I guess, have a proper comparison, we would have to establish what a contractor would cost to these services, and then make decisions after that.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. And the contract is over, I believe, in April 2021. So maybe before we do that, we could think about going out to tender just to see what the difference would be. Does anyone else want to speak to this? So, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Tree and Mr. Nacarado. This is a terrific report, very clear and complete. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Downey. I just have a few questions. I'm happy to say less than usual. On page 11, it says that we do have some equipment that is suitable for snow clearing. So I'm assuming that we have equipment and we just fit it for sidewalk cleaning now and then, or is it actually, yes, Mr. Downey?
That's exactly right. We have sidewalk equipment, but we do not have it dedicated to any particular area, but rather we supplement our contractor with our own forces when we have issues such as I say, blowing snow. This time of year, we have a lot of freeze thaw, and we'll go out and perhaps sand an area where we wouldn't have the contractor come in and do those works.
Thank you. So how much equipment do we actually own?
That's what I thought. We have 2.
2 actual
Sidewalk plows.
sidewalk plows. Thank you. And these problem areas, do we go out and clean them, or do we wait for residents to notify us?
Through you, a little bit of both. We do appreciate all the eyes that are out there and people calling us up and saying, can you look at this or look at that area, because we can't be everywhere. But we also have our road patrol out, and our sidewalk patrol. So we catch a lot of these areas ourselves, and so a little bit of both.
Thank you. The last question, and I think it's whoever's written the report has really raised this well, on page 12, when you're talking about the contracts, how can we do better? So with respect to you're talking about V-plows and talking about consequences if they don't do what they're supposed to, if they cause damage to residents' lawns or our lawns. So is there an extra cost to putting that in a contract?
Through you, Madam Chair, we believe there's going to be more than likely an increased cost for the V-plows. They are more expensive, so that equipment is more expensive. The others, we just believe the language needs to be stronger in the contract in order for us to deal with the contractor. It took a lot of meetings to build the proper relationship with the contractor so that they clearly understood what our concerns were. And also, we had a better understanding of what their issues are and how we could better provide information to them. So we're working really well at this point with our CRM program to identify areas where we have damage, but that took a lot of work to get to that point. So we aren't sure whether or not we're going to get the same contractor back again, so we want to make sure that that language is strengthened in the contract so that we aren't starting from square one.
Thank you. And what about putting in penalty clauses?
Through you, my understanding of penalty clauses within a contract, first of all, we have to show that we have some damages, but secondly, quite often penalty clauses are offset with bonuses, and we are not recommending bonuses.
Okay, thanks a lot. Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. I just, in reference to sidewalks, and the recommendation is to continue the contract of sidewalk maintenance and have some equipment in-house to help out. As I had mentioned before, during our capital projects deliberation, there was a capital item. I really don't recall whether we yellow lighted it or not for our additional report, but it was for a new trackless sidewalk utility vehicle. The project description was the objective is to include the town assuming one new additional sidewalk en route in the 2C development area as an alternative to contracting the route to a private sector as well as supplementing the road's operations. So that's a little bit in contrast to what the current report that's before us is saying. But I don't remember whether we red lighted that because of that or whether it's yellow lighted. And if it is yellow lighted and a report is coming back, I'm going to assume that considering the recommendation is to contract all of this, continue what we're doing, contracting all of the services, that we don't need that equipment if we're not going to be taking that area of 2C. Through you, Madam Chair, Mr. Downey.
Thank you, Mr.
Through you, the equipment that was in the capital budget, I believe, has been yellow lighted. I don't believe any equipment has been green lighted. I think the line painter actually was green lighted, but other than that, I don't believe any of the rolling stock was. And so it will be subject to a future report. Jim, would you like to talk to the sidewalk plow, and maybe that'll help clarify some issues?
Better turn this on. Or is it on?
You're on.
Oh, sorry. Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the trackless that you're referring to, I think we'd put it in as an offsetting piece of equipment until we have a full route. So whereas we add more kilometers to the route and until the contract is renewed, we would supplement the route. And I think the intention of the trackless at that time was just to simply supplement 2C's route until we go back to tender and we have a full route. But the other work for the trackless is to replace the two existing machines that we have because they're old and tired. And to put a trackless on it is a much more industrial type of equipment. It is also used for snow removal on Yonge Street and cleaning up. As we load the trucks, we have to clean up along the edges. We can also put a blower on it to load the trucks, as well as two sweepers. We have two sweepers on the old machines, but to put a proper sweeper on the trackless so we can do all the sidewalk sweeping in the spring. So the trackless is multifunctional, but it is also going to supplement sidewalks. And when we said it would supplement sidewalks in 2C, it was to accommodate the incremental growth until we have a full sidewalk route to put onto contract, and that would come with the new contract.
Thank you, Mr. Tree.
Okay, I don't have it at my fingertips, but I do recall an additional budget item to contract out that that part of 2C as well, and you know, I'll find it eventually, but I don't have it at my fingertips. And maybe that's why this is yellow lighted, because that's good information. And some of that was also in the report. I guess I was focused in on the paragraph that mentioned that, you know, we're going to do that part of 2C, yet it contrasts with the report in front of us that is saying that the intent is to contract, as it is right now, the entire town to outside contractor.
Mr. Tree?
You, Madam Chair, I pointed that out, that there was a contradiction in those two pieces of information. I recognize that, and the director and myself had some discussion about that because we were concerned that it was contradicting, but I think the intent of what we're saying is that we would contract out 2C, but until we get a full route in 2C for sidewalks, we would do it. And so that machine was proposed for 2019. If we ever get it, it'll be late 2019, and we would supplement 2C with that machine as opposed to bringing on a separate sidewalk machine for 2C. So there was some contradictions in there, but I think they need to be explained better. That's one of the problems.
We have two, through you, Mr. We have two in our inventory. Could those two not one of those two not accommodate the new area of 2C?
I beg your pardon?
Do we have two pieces of equipment in our inventory currently?
We do. The two pieces that we have are, as we said, they're old and they're dated, and we do use them continually, but we don't have an established route for them. So when we need to supplement it, we would put one of those machines on it. But the idea was to get rid of those two and get this trackless so that we would have a proper machine and retire these other two machines.
Okay. And I know there's a budget item, and I don't know if anyone else could remember, that was linked to the additional sidewalks in 2C. I can't off the top of my head, and I don't know if anyone else can, but if not, I know I could find it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Are there any more comments? Well, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Thank you very much to staff. We now go to number 5, which is the removal of the stop sign at Corbett and, nope. Whoops, we go to development charges. Thank you. Of course, number 3. We've had our presentation from 6 to 7. Are there any questions on this report? Need a mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Nobody jumping in, so I need a seconder for this, please, to bring this to the table. Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. Development charges bylaw approval. Are there any further questions on this item number 3? Okay. Sorry, Councillor Gallo.
Not sure which staff would be able to answer this, but does any staff feel there is any issue with any of the exceptions to the DC bylaw in terms of either private schools? I think there was another one that the delegate had identified. Okay.
We'll just take a second and...
Yep.
So we're talking about the current exemptions. Councillor Gallo?
So, I'm just inquiring whether staff has experienced any issues or that we may experience based on any planning applications that we may be aware of, in terms of the current exceptions to the DC bylaws, particularly the two that I thought I heard the delegate itemize the private schools and the, well, hospital. I guess that doesn't, won't affect us unless they do any satellite stuff.
Through you, Madam Chair, I haven't heard of any issues related to that, but I would want to consult with planning staff to make sure that there hasn't been something in the past that I'm not aware of, but nothing has come to my attention where it's been an issue.
Okay, I seem to remember, not that I remember a lot of what she said, but Councillor Buck had a real beef about religious organizations going into industrial units and not being subject to certain taxation. I'm not sure if it falls under this because it's not necessarily new development, but yeah, but it stood out for me. It wouldn't fall under this.
See, Madam Chair, I'm aware of that issue as it relates to churches moving into
Yeah.
existing rental units and then being exempt from the taxes and not really being in the properly zoned space
Yeah.
for a church. I know it was a big issue in Toronto with a number of places, but I'm not sure that there's been, at least for us, any implications for the development charge because I'm not aware of any new facilities where they've tried to avoid development charges on a new build in those kinds of situations.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. I'm sorry I didn't ask our expert, but do you know what subsection 2.3 of the Act is? There, it says issuance of a building permit in accordance with subsection 2.3 of the Act. Maybe that's something we could find out for next week, because I have no idea what that is, what that could possibly be. Thank you. Okay, so if you could find out about that, or I don't think it's in the report because it's not, it's the Act. Maybe we could just find out for next week. It's probably not relevant, but you've got the Act. Oh. So I think I'll call for the vote, and if there's any new information that can be brought forward next week. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Thank you. Now on to number 5. May I have somebody put this on the table, please? Whoa, not even Councillor Humphreys is jumping in on this one. Okay. Put it on the, I don't know, can we just do that? Okay, Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gilliland, a motion to receive? Just to receive. Thank you very much. Could you mind telling us why you want to do that, Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is a tricky one. Staff is recommending on, the correct process in terms of, how streets are designed. And when we put, stop signs, stop lines, and crosswalks. And I have a question. This was in response to complaints. So I'd like to understand, what kind of complaints. We get a whole bunch of them because since this has come out, we've got some real concern, residents that are really worried about the safety of the street, children again, school crossing, the high speeds of cars. They said I don't know if that's why this is here from a long time complaint, but maybe I'd like to understand how we got here, and then that's okay.
Thank you. We'll
And I feel
ask-
bad because I know staff's worked
No,
really
no,
hard
we'll
and they're
ask-
bright, but
Ms. McHale, Michael Batt prepared this, but perhaps Ms. McHale can speak to it.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Staff has been approached by a resident with the request to look into this because it seems that it's not okay. And the traffic analyst went on site and analyzed the situation on site and proposed the removal of the sign and the markings on the pavement.
so thank you, through you, Madam Chair. With the analyzing, was there any thought to looking at speeds of vehicles in that area? It probably wasn't part of the approach. I could see that not being part of the approach. And I just wondered if we want to take a moment and maybe put a speed view or watch for a little while, if possible, but maybe we won't even get the actual, because this sort of stops that. See, the residents are really worried and concerned. I think I've shared some of those with yourself. So, I mean, I don't live there. They have asked us to go. I haven't had a chance to watch what happens here, but I'm just afraid of, we take this out and then there's just some, I guess people that live there see it every day and they worry about this.
Thank you, Ms. McHale.
May I?
Yes, please.
Through you, Madam Chair. Stop signs are not supposed to control speed. Stop signs just take care of conflicts within the right-of-way.
Okay.
They are placed at intersections to avoid conflicts from motorists going in different directions. A stop sign is placed here and controls only one lane of the traffic. The other lane is uncontrolled. So pedestrians crossing the street have the false safety
Danger.
feeling. It's false because one side is controlled by the stop sign, the other side is not controlled. But the stop sign there is against the Traffic Act.
Okay.
So we discussed this with York Regional Police, with York Region Transportation Services, and they agreed with us that the sign there is not meant to be there. And it was placed there long time ago. We assume we've done some research in our database base, and Cossar Drive was supposed to connect to Murray. The connection hasn't been done because the community complained during the development, and instead of having a T intersection, Cossar-Corbett, we have just a 90-degree bend in the road. The stop sign, we suppose we found drawings that were as-built drawings from 1978 in our database, and we suppose the stop sign has been installed during the development.
Sure.
Probably because it's going to be a T intersection. The intersection has a T intersection never happened, and we have a stop sign that is against the Traffic Act and might create some liability for the town if an accident happens there. I understand the residents' concerns. I read the emails. However, the stop sign is not installed according to the Traffic Act.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And this has been around for years and years, though, although it's wrong. Interesting. I guess, I'd like to hear what my other peers say. Maybe, if we move forward with this, if there's an opportunity, I think you mentioned in the report that we keep a close eye on speed afterwards and other hazards that may occur, because it is a strange sort of bend in the road that didn't really end up being a T, as you mentioned.
If I may?
Yes, you may.
Chair, We intend to, by removing this stop sign and the road markings, we intend to put pedestrians yield to traffic
Right, I
on
saw
the
that.
sidewalk and pedestrians ahead on the road. So to make aware both the motorists and the pedestrians that they have to pay attention.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. That I do appreciate that. I think that helps a lot in terms of removal of stop sign and still awareness that something is, changed in this area and you still have to be aware of pedestrians. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you to Michael Batt. He was back and forth with emails with me for quite a bit, so I learned quite a lot about the Murray Drive connection, and I had Google Street viewed it. I wanted to actually drive it, but haven't had a chance, and I do consider it quite an outlier situation to where it would be rather confusing. I think if you lived in the community for 25 years and you didn't have the stop sign and the crosswalk, it'd be a little bit shocking to your behavior, but if I had driven down that road, I definitely would have been rather confused, and I can see how it could be a safety issue. The one question I did forget to ask Michael Batt was there any other kind of traffic calming measures considered to kind of appease maybe some of the growing concern? And I believe that you have a yielding sign you just had mentioned. Was that what your intention was?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, to put signs on the sidewalk, pedestrian yield the traffic, so they will have to pay attention when crossing the street to look for traffic, and they will have to cross the street when there are gaps in the traffic, and at the same time to put on the street pedestrians ahead, signs for pedestrians ahead, so motorists will have to slow down. They will slow down anyway because it's a 90-degree bend in the road, and they have to slow, otherwise there is an accident happen.
Okay, perfect. So I really wanted to know if there was any other kind of traffic calming or signage or something that was going to kind of, with the change and transition, so it wasn't sudden. So
Yes,
that's what I
we will
wanted to
put
know.
these signs, and we will look at speed in the areas to see if there is a control, and maybe put a electronic speed sign in there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Sario. Mr. Sario, we've always heard stories about liability and risk when it comes to this kind of situation. Do you have any concerns that the removal of a stop sign might put the town at more risk should an accident happen at that spot?
Through you, Mrs. Chair, I don't have any concerns. To me, the town is always at risk, and having said that, we did look into this with Ms. Mahal and our insurance risk manager, and it was a low-traffic street. The width is wide enough to be able to navigate turns. It's a road primarily traveled by the residents in the area. As Ms. Mahal said, the stop signs are typically used to avoid potential conflict with other vehicles, and the crosswalk will be removed also, so we felt that the risk was actually low.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Maracus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to add, I hear the concerns about the speeds, but it's a 90-degree turn. I don't think anyone's going to be able to speed through there. I think it's almost impossible. I mean, unless they're playing some video game in their car and they're driving like mad, people through the neighborhood. You have to slow down to make that turn. You cannot do a continuous just drive through it. So. I think there's some more safety concerns with that stop sign they're hearing from Ms. McHale, how the other side, it almost, puts a false sense of security into the pedestrian. They're walking across, the other side's just going right through, and they're thinking that they're supposed to stop. So, I'll be in favor of the recommendation from staff.
Thank you. The motion on the table is to receive. So we would have to vote on that first. Yeah. No? We could do what we did in the last case and just add an amendment to add the staff recommendation to the motion. Did you hear what I said? So, Mr. Clerk, do you want to? Can you just say what? Okay, so this is the suggestion of the clerk, if we want to do it this way?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we could either do an amendment to add the recommendations back in, a friendly amendment, if the 7 around the table do agree. So we'll leave it up to you whether everyone's in agreement or not.
Seconder? Thank you. Do you need this on the screen, or do you can? It is friendly.
We'll add it back.
So we're just going to add this. Folks, thank you. Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Thank you. On to item number 6. Appointments to the Aurora Economic Development Corporation, called the AEDC Board of Directors. So basically, this is just taking the working group members and making them directors. And adding the council members. Thank you. But right now, we're just doing this. Thank you. Mayor Marcus, would you like to speak to this? Oh, I need a mover.
I'll move
You'll
it.
move it. Councillor Thompson will second it. Mayor Marcus is going to speak to it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to insert the 2 councillor names. That would be Councillor Thompson and Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Clerk. Okay, we're just going to do that on the screen. Thank you. We're good. I'm going to call the motion. Anybody want to speak to this? No. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. On to item number 7, our last item, and we're not even near our break. Pretty good. Thank you, folks. This is the Heritage Permit Application, 22 Church Street. Could I have somebody put this on the table? Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Thank you, Councillor Kim. Are there comments? Okay, I have a comment. On page 5, it's talking, the heading is Legal Considerations, Heritage Permits. I've become pretty familiar with this because I was at the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting, as were many of us. So we know that the Ontario Heritage Foundation is going to have to agree to this, and I think that we can't overlook the comments of the Ontario Heritage Trust. They're on page 47 of this report, and they do have concerns, and these concerns will have to be met for their approval in order for this project to move forward. So going to page 47, we're at, I think it's important that everybody looks at this. We're at section 7.2. This is from ERA, which are the architects for this project. Now, I don't know exactly what the trust said, but what ERA is saying, that overall the trust supports the proposed development, and comments were provided that reference the following items. So Ontario Heritage Trust is concerned about the placement and size, including size of the building height and footprint, and changes in grade, compatibility and distinguishability, including materials, and impacts to the north elevation, including connections to the heritage fabric, windows, and existing openings. Yes?
Ontario Heritage Trust is concerned.
Right.
Where's that line?
Okay, so
Or is
these...
that your wording, or is that from what
I'm
you're
sorry,
reading?
so these are comments.
Yes, because nowhere does it say the Ontario Heritage
Quite
Trust
right.
is concerned.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. So they have provided comments, I'm guessing to ERA, or I don't know, Mr. CAO, to the town. So these are their comments, and their comments are with respect to the placement and size, compatibility, and the impacts to the north elevation. And in fact, these are the comments, these are reflective of the comments that were received, that were given by the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting, and surprisingly, most of us were at that meeting. One of the comments is the footprint is larger than that of the church. Oh, sorry. The footprint above the first floor is larger than that of the church. They were talking about the massing and including the cantilever at the north end. And they were also talking about, I don't know, I'm sorry we don't have this. I thought we were going to get this tonight for the report. But they were talking about the lines in the, it's called the veil, following the pattern in the lines of the brick on the church, so that there should be some form of architectural connection. So I think this is important, and actually I think it would be important, Mr. CEO, for you to get the exact comments of the Ontario Heritage Trust, because I don't know if they were concerns or comments. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to prove this, so we may as well know what their issues are and address them. Councillor Humphreys. Oh, sorry, we have a list. Sorry. Mayor Maracas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I mean, I'll just go with the first statement on that whole thing. Overall, the trust supports the proposed development. I think that's self-explanatory. But I'll ask the chair. We were at the meeting. I don't know. I'm not sure if I remember what the actual vote was, but the chair, Councillor Humphreys, what was the vote? They voted on this at the Heritage meeting. I'm just wondering if you could let us know what that vote was.
Mm-hmm. We voted, if not all, everyone. It was majority voted in favor. Absolutely, yes.
Councillor Humphreys, you're next.
Through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to reiterate that the Heritage had an opportunity to go through. They asked many questions that night. I know many who were there had left. We had some really good interaction, and we had some great statements by longstanding members of the Heritage Committee saying that they felt a lot better after their questions were answered, and they were happy. So at this point, I think overall we've got a good report here.
Councillor Thompson.
I don't see Adam Robb, so if I have to, I'll address it to Ms. McDougall. So just going with the report itself, page 2 of the report, there's a paragraph where in bold it says the Ontario Heritage Trust supports the addition, and reading from the report, essentially the Ontario Heritage Trust will circulate the plans and elevations for the proposed addition and gave their comments and initial support for the project and design on January 23rd, 2019. The Ontario Heritage Trust comments were addressed in the Heritage Impact Assessment. So through you to Ms. McDougall, Councillor Gardner referenced some of those comments. Were there additional comments by the Trust that have not been addressed? Because I'm just trying to, I guess, reconcile these two statements, one from the report and one from the Heritage one.
Through Madam Chair, regarding the Heritage Trust comments and the three in particular, 3 bullet points you have, the Heritage consultant that did the Heritage Impact Assessment refers to that and provides comment in response to each of those 3 and how they will address them. And they are part of a memo in your council agenda on page 56. It addresses each of those 3 bullets regarding placement and size, how that would be accommodated or addressed. It speaks to the compatibility and distinguishability and impacts of the north elevation and how that is addressed. Again, reiterating the comment that overall the trust commented that it is supportive of the Library Square project and the addition of the Church Street School.
Thank you. As a follow-up question through you to Ms. McDougall, based on your conversations and your level of awareness, are any of those comments concerns, or are they just noting these comments to be addressed through the process and to maintain contact as we develop it?
Ms. McDougall.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. They are comments. They are not a point of concern or risk in the sense that they cannot be addressed. They can be based on, sometimes it's based on a comment or an evaluation by the architect on how and why they chose to do what they did. But in some cases, it could be a comment that they wanted some adjustment. And in this case, it's not that case. It's a matter of just answering their questions. In a case of, for example, the impacts of the north elevation, they just wanted an understanding of what that meant and what that and how that would be addressed. So it's not insurmountable, and in fact, we will continue as part of the process for heading into detailed design, which would be the next stage, continue to connect with the Ontario Heritage Trust, as that is a requirement to do so, as well as the ERA consultants to ensure we follow the proper process.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would it be possible to get a copy of their comments, their report, or whatever it is that they provided?
Thank you.
Through Madam Chair, certainly I can follow up with Adam Robb.
Perfect.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
so how does it work? I don't know who this goes to. Mr. Robb isn't here, but so how does it work when there's been a heritage meeting? And yes, they did approve this, but they did have comments that wanted to be addressed. So how do we go about doing that? I don't know, Madam Chair, if you know the answer to that. Ms. McDougall, somebody?
I will do my best through you, Madam Chair. As it relates to the comments of the committee, they are certainly very important and valid, and it's important for us to sit with them and hear their feedback. Fortunately, at the last meeting, we did have present the consultant from the ERA that could directly comment on some of the concerns from the committee, hoping to appease some of their concerns, and as well, from an architect's perspective, explaining some of the rationale as to why the design might be the way it is, or the shape, or how it came to be, all the while trying to support and demonstrate the care and concern for the heritage building all through the design pieces. So the veil, the concerns around the veil in particular seem to be the biggest concern coming out of the heritage, although not the only one, but the biggest concern, keeping in mind from an architect's perspective and the ERA's comments, they are not dissatisfied with the veil. They are in support of the veil. They don't see a concern with that. But keeping in mind those kinds of details regarding color or texture are still to come in the next phase or detailed design phases. And so if there is any component that situates this and changes the overall context or may impact a heritage component, then it may go back to the committee. But otherwise, it would not necessarily go back to the committee at this point.
Thank you. And actually, I didn't see this response on page 57, so I will give it a careful read and see if I think that ERA has been able to address the comments. Thank you. So I think we're finished. No? All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. And Mr. Clerk, I think we're finished for this evening. Yes, we have new business. No, So does anybody have new business? Thank you, Councillor Gilliland.
Just a quick question about minutes to our advisory committees, and I haven't received any or seen any posted for the accessibility committee, and I know there was comments made in here, and although I'm going based on memory, I just wondered if when and if I should be receiving those.
Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Madam Chair, soon, absolutely. So the process is we send them to the committee chair, and then we and circulate them to staff, and then they go to the committee for comment before they get on the council agenda. So I'm not certain of the status, but just in terms of the time since the meeting, I'm sure it's coming soon.
Okay, so I just want to throw it out there for me to comment on the actual minutes. It's tough for me to comment accurately without having been able to read them, but the accessibility committee obviously does support, safety and accessibility, and that wasn't really the point of what we're trying to make here. But I would really like to have those minutes before on a timely manner when we have it on an agenda item, if that's at all possible. Thank you.
Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Kim? No? Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just have one. Mr. Downey, we had some conversations at length in regards to a garbage bin that we used to have at Kennedy and Murray, the corner. It's been removed, but it seems people are continuing to dump their waste there. And so I'm just wondering some of the options. And I know we've had some discussion, but maybe we can just let the public know what's happening.
Mr. Downey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's actually been quite a discussion around the shop. Dog waste and pet waste, cat litter as well, has been an ongoing issue, and it seems to be increasing. Most residents don't understand that it's green bin where pet waste goes. It doesn't go in the garbage, and we are discovering in many of our garbage cans they are predominantly full of pet waste. So I'd like to get an education program out there for the public to be aware that the garbage cans within the parks and within our trails are not for depositing pet waste. Take it home, put it in your green bin. With regards to this garbage receptacle specifically, my recommendation is that if residents are concerned that there be some place to drop pet waste in that area, that we do something similar to what we have at the dog park, so that if there's a concerned resident who wishes to enter into and adopt a park, we will be happy to deliver green bins to them. They can then deposit the green bin, have people drop their pet waste into that green bin, and they can then ensure that that green bin is put at the curb, and we will ensure that that green bin is emptied. With regards to the waste that's there right now, it will be the responsibility of the corporation to pick it up, and depending on the degree of it, we will either do it ourselves or hire a contractor to do it. But we do not encourage people to simply drop their dog waste on the side of the street.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. And I just wanted to recognize a resident that's been living here for 6 months, Tammy LaChance, and she went out there and actually cleaned up this big pile. And so, good on her for doing that. But it's unfortunate that the pile was there to begin with. But I think if we can look at some of those issues and maybe get that educational component out to the residents and make them aware that pet waste should not be in the garbage bins, then I think that's a good start, and then we can go from there. But I guess we'll continue our conversation afterwards as well, so thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Our clerk, Mr. Duran, sent through an email today just notifying us that the province is seeking comments with regards to the regional governance review, and I'd like us, if we haven't already, perhaps to ask Ms. Mackenzie Smith to put it out on social media and on the website, and encourage them to participate in this discussion, because it does affect them directly.
She's nodding her head yes. Councillor Gallo. Mr. Downey, we know the trouble we had with the dog park and the pet waste and the years it took to figure all that out. So, notwithstanding we were successful at the end of the day, this is a really difficult situation. So, I don't think we can look to the dog park for solutions. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Yes, the ladies, Councillor Humphreys and Gilliland. All those in favor? Thank you. 5 to 9.